More than 100 Palestinians were wounded on Wednesday, as Israeli occupation forces cracked down on protesters, who took to the streets in support of Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails, the Palestinian Red Crescent reported. Protesters headed to Israeli checkpoints at the entrances of Palestinian cities and towns across the occupied West Bank. In Nablus, Palestinians staged their protest near Hawara checkpoint, where the Israeli occupation forces opened fire at them and threw gas canisters to disperse them. According to the PRC, more than 100 suffered suffocation due to the use of tear gas, while others were injured as a result of the use of live, plastic, and rubber bullets. Meanwhile, Palestinian protesters headed to the entrance of Araba neighborhood in Jenin. Occupation forces responded with fire, but no casualties were reported, except a number of people, who suffocated following the inhalation of tear gas. There were similar reports from the town of Al-Baray, north of Ramallah, Kalkalia, Bethlehem, Al-Arabi refugee camp in Hebron, and Beit Amr neighborhood in Hebron. In Jerusalem, the Israeli occupation forces opened fire at Palestinians gathered near the Lions Gate, and wounded 3 people, including 2 with rubber bullets, and a third with a sound grenade. Hamas warned of the repressive Israeli measures, which are being used against Palestinian prisoners in retaliation, after 6 detainees escaped from a high-security unit earlier this week. It is not possible to remain silent about all the crimes and violations committed against the Palestinian prisoners, and we will not leave them alone in their battle, Hamas said in a statement. We will not abandon the prisoners, nor will we abandon our national, ethical, and moral duty towards their just rights, foremost of which is their right to freedom, it added. Following the escape of 6 Palestinian prisoners from Israel's high-security Gilboa Prison in the north of the country, occupation forces have been cracking down on prisoners inside all prison, including moving them from their cells, and stopping family visits. In Gaza, Palestinians raised placards reading, "All of us support the prisoners, we will protect the prisoners, we will liberate the freedom fighters." In the West Bank cities of Ramallah and Nablus, hundreds of Palestinians took part in gatherings in support of the prisoners. They raised placards reading, "We will protect the prisoners with our souls, prisoners are our heroes, prisoners are not criminals, they are freedom fighters." Hamas pledged on Wednesday that it would not abandon Palestinian prisoners, within and outside Israeli prisons. "The legend of the Freedom Tunnel is a decisive stage of the life of our people, and prisoners," said Musaduddin, a member of the Hamas political bureau. "The Israeli occupier has to know that our homes and souls are cheaper than the freedom and dignity of our prisoners. We will protect with everything we have the prisoners who escaped through the Freedom Tunnel." Duddin, who is in charge of the prisoners' portfolio for the movement, added that Hamas is ready to do whatever is needed for the protection of Palestinian prisoners. The Hamas official described the situation of the escapees as an extension of the Palestinian struggle for freedom and independence from Israel's brutal military occupation. His statement ended with a warning to Israel not to target the families of the escapees. Israeli security and intelligence services have been involved since Monday in the largest manhunt in the occupation state's history in the search for 6 Palestinians who escaped from the high-security Gilboa prison through a tunnel. According to the Jerusalem Post, the massive manhunt involves police, Shin Bet internal security agents, border police, and troops from 2 IDF battalions, and 14 companies of soldiers, as well as special forces. The newspaper added that there are around 200 roadblocks in place across Israel as part of the efforts to find the escapees. Special units including dog handlers and air support are also involved. More than 750 military vehicles are tied up by the search. "The incident constitutes a rare humiliation of the Israeli security establishment," said the New York Times, "and has provoked alarm about the security lapses that may have aided the fugitives' escape." Describing the escape as a serious incident, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett told Interior Minister Omer Bar-Lev that it will require the efforts of all security services. Israeli security agencies are working together to overcome any potential impact of the recent prison escape by Palestinian detainees from the high-security Gilboa jail, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said yesterday. Bennett's remarks came during a meeting he held with officials to assess the situation. The meeting was reported to have been attended by the Israeli Defense Minister, Internal Security Minister, Chief of Staff, the Shin Bet Chief, the Police Commissioner, the Prison Service Commissioner, and the National Security Chief. "The events have the potential to impact numerous fronts," Bennett added, stressing that Israel was prepared for any scenario. Stay tuned for the latest news.